Hello, everyone. Cecil Martin here.
Hey, this is Hunter Henry.
What's up, man? This is Max Crosby, part of Raider Nation.
Hey, this is Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman.
Hey, it's Tyler Lockett of the Seattle Seahawks.
Hey, this is Jerry Judah, wide receiver for the Denver Broncos, and you're listening to the 14-Yard NFL Podcast.
We're here, the final week of the regular season, with 4 division titles still to be won and 3 additional wildcard spots up for grabs. This is the 10Yards NFL podcast, and I'm your host, Sam Moores. And all 16 teams face a divisional opponent this week to close out the year. And joining me is someone I'm sure you're all familiar with by now if you've been listening to the podcast all year. He's the co-host of our betting podcast. I'm, of course, talking about Liam Horsley. Welcome back to the pod, Liam.
Yeah, hi, mate. Long time coming. I've missed a few, unfortunately, with some stuff going on. So yeah, I'm glad to be back on, talk about week 18, one of my favourite weeks. I found out yesterday as well, it's the most playoff implications we've had going into week 18 since they've done the 7-team playoffs. So should be a good week. And then wildcard's probably everyone's favourite week the week after. So yeah, it's a good time. It's a shame for the people that support the other teams who aren't going to be in the playoffs because you're kind of done now, aren't you, for like 5 months. But yeah, should be a good week 18 and then we'll see what happens after that.
I think that's the best thing about the NFL, though, because there's always something to look forward to, because you've had a terrible season, so you've got a high draft pick, or your coach gets fired, or something. There's always something new that will happen over the next or day or Monday. You're going to see coaches fired. You're going to have free agency in early March after the Super Bowl, and the draft time, and then it'll be the season again. It's they like to spread it about the NFL do, so there's always something to look forward to. But yeah, for those teams that are in the playoffs, or hoping to get into playoffs this week, it's a really, really interesting week, and we're going to be breaking down all of the games with something riding on them before picking the winners in the rest of the games later on. And there's only one place to start, and that is on Saturday, where week 18 begins with the Steelers heading to Baltimore, needing a win to keep their playoff hopes alive. Should they win and one of the Bills or Jaguars lose, they will return to the playoffs as they're missing out last year. They've won their last 2 games at home to Cincinnati and then in Seattle last week, putting them at 9-7, which is another winning season for Mike Tomlin, with Mason Rudolph for QB as well, which is really impressive. He was actually quick to name Rudolph the starter for this week, benching a now healthy Kenny Pickett, which is very interesting. He's practiced fully all week, but he will not play. And yeah, it's just a weird situation for the Steelers, because they lost 3 straight before that Saturday night game against the Bengals, where George Pickens had a game, and they've had a ton of injuries. And they're now on their 3rd quarterback of the season. It's quite remarkable they've got here, isn't it, Liam? Because I don't think we expected this a few weeks ago.
Yeah, it's strange because they were playing better than people thought, and they were ahead of the sticks in terms of winning percentage. Then they had 3 losses, 2 to 2 win teams, I think it was. And then it was like, okay, season's dead. And then they come back, 3rd QB, and then win 2 in a row that really put them in playoff contention. So yeah, it's been a weird season for them. And they've battled quite well to get here, I think. And I think if you're a Steelers fan, you're quite confident that at least the run game looks a little bit better than it has for the last 2 years. I'm not a Mason Rudolph guy, but he throws the ball down the field well enough so far. Tomlin obviously likes him. Tomlin trusts him to throw the ball down the field more than he does Trubisky, which is a start. So yeah, this is an interesting game because it means so much to the Steelers, and they get to play first, which I think is a very good thing for a Tomlin team, because he's going to be motivating them to say, look, do your job, win, and then we can sit back, watch Sunday, see who loses, see if we get in. I got a sneaky feeling they've got a chance of getting in if they win this game. Obviously, Ravens are going to be playing backups, but yeah, it's an interesting position for the Steelers to be. George Pickens looks like he's got a new lease of life in this offense with Rudolph. So we'll see what it looks like, but I'm not expecting the highest scoring game, but I think that Steelers can do a job if they play well.
Yeah, and Pickens is like a spectacular catch guy. So when you've got a guy chucking the ball downfield, he's a perfect receiver for someone like Mason Rudolph. Now, obviously, the Steelers, as you said, they've still got a win to get in, and they've got to get hope for some help elsewhere as well. But as you mentioned, the Ravens are resting starters, including Lamar Jackson, who sealed MVP last week, pretty much in a way. But the Ravens have got such a roster that it's still going to be difficult because they are the 1 seed after all, and they've still got still incredibly talented. So yeah, it makes picking this game really difficult, as you said. Yeah, I think obviously that's the thing as well. The Steelers going to be drilled for this. It's important to them. Whereas for the Ravens, obviously they're playing for nothing really. They've got the 1 seed locked up. They're not going to play again till mid January now as well. So that so there's that as well. They've got a little bit of a break. So I'm going to pick the Steelers to do it because I think obviously they're well drilled. Just what Mike Tomlin does, he wins these games. But I'm not confident in that at all. Especially with the injuries they've got as well. They've got the likes of Minka Fitzpatrick and TJ Watt are questionable. They'll play because they've been playing all year hurt, but it's just they're not 100%. And they've got Isaac Sumalo, he's not practiced all week as well, and he's the starting guard, so there's that as well. But I'm gonna pick them to win, and then I'll wait to see if they can get in on Sunday. What about you, Liam?
Yeah, I'm going to pick them to win just because you don't know who's playing for the Ravens. Obviously, Lamar's not going to play, Flowers isn't going to play, Odell's not going to play, Clowney's not going to play.
No Cole Hamilton either. There's quite a lot of
players.
No
Cole Hamilton still. Yeah, Marlon Humphrey. So they had a lot of injuries in the secondary anyway. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm going to go for the Steelers to win. I don't think it'll be a high-scoring game, like I said earlier, but I think they'll win the game. They might get in the playoffs. They can actually lose and get in. So they will be the number 7 seed if the Titans beat the Jags and the Broncos beat the Raiders because of tiebreakers. So even if they lose, it would be the most Steelers thing in the world to lose and be the 7 seed. But yeah, I think they win the game, and then we'll see what happens on Sunday. But yeah, this is a typical Tomlin game. So yeah, I'm going for Steelers.
Awesome. And the later game on Saturday night on the doubleheader is a winning game between the two AFC South teams that are currently second and third behind the Jaguars. The winner of this game will also momentarily lead the AFC South before Jacksonville play on Sunday. And if Jacksonville lose that game, then he will be the winner of the AFC South, and they will play as the 4 seed. Obviously, if the winner of this game gets into the playoffs regardless, the Colts are the home team currently, and are currently the 7 seed after winning against the Raiders last week. The Texans are on the outside looking in 8th place in the AFC, but they're actually the favourites in this game, despite losing to the Colts in week 2. Now, since then, both these teams are completely different. The Colts started that game with Anthony Richardson, who scored 2 rushing touchdowns before going out for concussion. And the Texans have come on leaps and bounds too since then. CJ Stroud has wrapped up Rookie of the Year pretty much. Their offensive line has got a lot healthier. And their defense has got better too. But the Texans are also the most injured of the two teams. With Noah Brown and Jonathan Grenard already ruled out. Laramie Tunsil and Will Anderson are questionable, although I think they probably will play. So it's just a fascinating game, isn't it, this one? Because I like watching both these teams, and right now I'd rather probably watch both these teams than some of the other teams that are in the wildcard hunt in the playoffs. It's a shame we're probably only going to have one of them. Well, we are only going to have one of them. But yeah, no, it's one of the games of the week for sure, this one, because there's just so much riding on it, isn't there, Liam?
Yeah, it's probably 3 games that I say are like the top 3, and this is definitely one of them. 2 fun teams, obviously know each other well, been in the same division. We were talking about this on our pod earlier, and Colts were kicking themselves. They lost to the Falcons in like a blowout 2 weeks ago, and they'd be done and dusted now in the playoffs with that 10th win. So yeah, they'll be kicking themselves. I think coaching staff-wise as well, both these staffs have done an incredible job, and they deserve to be in the playoffs as well. And to do this with a backup QB for the Colts has just been one of the better seasons I think they've seen a first-year head coach have in the NFL in Shane Steichen. So, yeah, it's a fun game. I think they're going to play differently. I think Colts are going to run it first down, run it second down, see what we can do on third down. Texans cannot run the ball at all. So, DJ, let's drop back and throw it 45 times and have some fun. The complete opposite styles, really, on how both these two teams play. So, it should be an exciting game. To be the 4 seed, 6 or 7 seed as well adds a bit of jeopardy to it. And obviously, you're a Dolphins fan. I'm a Chiefs fan. So there's a chance that we could play one of these two teams. And I know, for me, I don't know how you feel, but I would avoid the Texans. If you gave me, you got these teams that could get in, Steelers, obviously Bills as well, but Steelers, Texans, or Colts. Texans are the worst team to play for me. I think they can be that good on their day.
Well, the Dolphins are really good at stopping the run, and so that's will give me confidence against the Colts. And as for the Texans, yeah, I completely agree with you there. It's really hard to try pick a winner in this one. You know, when that's the case, I normally go quarterback, and obviously CJ Stroud, he has burst onto the scene this year. Gardner Minshew has played very well at points, but he has also had a lot of turnovers in him, and a lot of turnovers probably should have that should have happened that haven't happened as well. So it's been the full Gardner Minshew experience. But yeah, no, I'm gonna go for a start to have a game. I think he's going to fire Houston into the playoffs, and then they'll be waiting to see what happens in Jacksonville the next day on Sunday. What about you, Liam?
Yeah, I'm going to go for the Texans as well, similar to you. I'm a big CJ guy. I had him as the best quarterback in that draft class, so I'm a fan of him. So yeah, I'm going to go they win it. I actually think it'll be a high-scoring game, though. Bit of a shootout, fourth quarter, kind of either you're driving to get to 10-point lead or you're driving to come back. I think that'll be what happens in the game. So yeah, Texans win for me, and then we'll see what happens in Jacksonville to see if they finish 4, 6, or 7.
And that leads us on nicely, because as Liam just mentioned, the winner of that game could also have a home playoff game and obviously win the AFC South title if the Jags lose to the Titans. Now, all the Jags need to do is win, and they have the 4 seed wrapped up, lose to Tennessee, and it gets complicated. They could actually miss the playoffs entirely. So, really, really weird situation, and it's just so weird how they got it, because they seem to shoe in when sitting at 8-3 after back-to-back in-division wins over these teams, creating a really hefty advantage over second place. But then Trevor Lawrence got hurt, and they lost 4 games in a row, leading to last week where they beat Carolina to stop that slide last week and remain atop of the division, and that's at home as well. And the Jaguars struggled at home this year, which is an interesting thing. But they took control of their business, and yeah, they're now in a situation where they've got to beat the Titans, division opponent, of course, to get in. If not, they could be out of the playoffs. And they may still be without Lawrence in this one too. He's missed last week's win. Obviously, CJ Beathard played last week, and his shoulder injury is still day to day. He has practiced, but he's been limited in practice his last couple of weeks. And Doug Peterson today has still said that it's going to be a game time decision. So we don't know if he's going to play, although I probably would hazard a guess that he does play just because of how meaningful it is. We're going to have Christian Kirk back, which is huge for them. He was activated off IR this week. He's practiced as well, because they've already missed him the last couple of weeks. Now he's been on IR 4 weeks. Those 4 losses have come when Christian Kirk has been on IR. But I just don't think they win this game. If the rumours are true and Mike Vrabel is to lead the Titans, because I think it's, I don't get it at all. But I think it's to screw you to higher ups in division win, like we've seen so many times in week 18 before. And especially if Will Levis plays, which it sounds like he might now because he has practice this week. I've just got a sneaky feeling that the Titans are going to do it, which means that Houston, in my opinion, will win the AFC South.
Well, I picked the AFC South winner Texans about 5 weeks ago, so I hope you're right, because that makes me look good on our podcast. Yeah, I think the Jags are going to win, but I would usually say Vrabel. I just don't think that the performance the last 5-6 weeks defensively for the Titans has kind of done as much as you'd hope with that team.
Other than the Miami game, that's that game they just turned up out of nowhere. But
yeah, a little bit, yeah, and a lot of that was just that Will Levis kind of crazy comeback in the fourth. You know what I mean? Rather than the old style Mike Vrabel defensive performances.
But even then, right. they were the most. They had the most sacks and most pressures against the Dolphins O-line all season, and they played some really, really good defenses, which is quite a good stat. So they turned up in that game.
Yeah, Simmons was really good that game. But yeah, I would normally always pick Titans, but I just can't pick Vrabel this time. I'm going to go with the Jags and go with Trevor Lawrence. I've not really got anything to go on because they've let me down time in, time out again for the Jags this whole season. But especially if Tannehill plays, I just think Trevor Lawrence is good enough to get this done injured. The Titans, historically good at stopping the run, haven't been very good at stopping it the last couple of weeks. So we'll see if they run the football with ETN and Tank Bigsby. But yeah, I'll go Jags, but it would not shock me to see the Titans win this game. Jags can also get in, by the way, with a loss, but similar scenario. They need Raiders to beat the Colts and Ravens to beat the Steelers as well. So.
And they ran the ball really well last week as well with Travis Etienne. He had a really long run down the right sideline. So that's a thing to watch as well in this one. Just before we get on to the next division, what do you think about Vrabel? Do you think they actually are going to fire him? Because like I keep seeing it everywhere. It's weird. Like the last 2 years have not been great, but it's just like they obviously 2 years before that he was coach of the year. So it's just a weird scenario, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it depends how you read the rumours, but for the rumours saying like he could leave, I wonder if that's more his decision than their decision. I'd be very shocked.
There's rumours he's fell out with the GM and the owner. I've been reading that too. But
yeah, and that's a new GM. That's a new GM as well that he helped bring in as well. I think they'd be stupid to do it. I don't think they do it, but if they have another season like this, then it could get to that point, and it could be a situation. I don't compare the two because one's way better. But like Andy Reid did well in Philly, but it just got to the point where it was too much. Goes to another team, does really well. I think he could do that with another franchise, but I don't think it'll be this summer personally. I feel like he could stay and wait and see what he has in Levis and kind of build around that team because they've got a lot of cap space this year compared to what they've had since he's been there in the past. So yeah, I think they'd be stupid to get rid of him. I think he's a very, very good coach. But yeah, if someone offered him a big deal, Patriots or someone like that, then maybe he takes it. But yeah, I don't think they'll fire him personally.
Yeah, we'll see what happens on Monday, I guess.
Yeah, it'll be Monday or Sunday night, wouldn't it? Late, but
yeah. Right, we'll get into the NFC South now, where it's just mental because it's another division that could be won by any one of the three teams left in it, the Falcons, the Saints, and the Buccaneers. And it's a funny division, isn't it? Because all these teams have just looked terrible at times this year, haven't they? Literally all of them, but they're all still within a chance of getting a home playoff game. It's just mental how bad the division's been this year, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been a bad one. And I think also, I don't want to say it's been good, but they played each other quite well in terms of like who's beating each other. It's really stopped that one team kind of running away from it. Even if you look last week with the Saints defense, how well they played against the Bucs. Not many teams in the division have been able to slow them down, but they've managed to do it. And yeah, it's one of the more entertaining divisions to talk about this year for the whole podcast. But I wouldn't say it's a high quality division. It's just been entertaining because teams can lose to anyone, teams can beat anyone. But I think the team that are rightfully at the top at the moment are probably the best team. But we'll see, obviously, after this weekend if they can get the job done.
Yeah, and that's it, isn't it? After Tampa Bay lost to New Orleans last week, we have both the Bucs and the Saints at 8-8, and both at 3-2 in Division 2, with the Bucs retaining the lead of the division because they have a better in-conference record, and that's the only thing that separates those two teams. All the Bucs need to do to win the division is beat the Panthers in Carolina, and they'll make their fourth straight playoff appearance and win their third straight division title. Obviously, the wildcard appearance is when they actually went on to go win the Super Bowl as well. So that's four really impressive playoff runs. Other than last year, where they got knocked out straight away because of the offensive line. But before we get into whether the Bucs can get in as win the division, first talk about the other two teams that can win the division because it's just a weird scenario with both of them. The Saints and the Falcons play in New Orleans on Sunday, where the Saints are favourites in this one. And obviously now we mentioned the Saints were tied with the Bucs, meaning that a win and a Bucs loss will see them win their first division title since 2020. But there's another team in the race, and that's the Falcons, who, despite having a 7-9 record, will win a division with a victory on Sunday and a Tampa Bay loss because they have the best in-division record of all of them. So if all the teams are 8-9, the Falcons will win a division. So they are still there. They've been hanging on for weeks now, even though they've been terrible. And it's so weird because the Saints have won 3 of the last 4. The Falcons have lost 3 of the last 4. But the Falcons beat the Saints at home in week 12, and that was 2 wins ago for them. So it's saying that's 6 weeks ago. They've only won two since then. And yeah, it's just so weird just trying to think about what's going to happen. I don't think the Falcons are going to win this time though. I find it mad that I'm saying this, but I actually trust the Saints a tiny bit more. And I've been saying all year that I don't trust the Saints, which is just weird. But and that's bearing in mind as well the fact that Alvin Kamara hasn't practiced all week for the Saints, so he's probably not going to play as well. So I'm picking them to win, and I think being in the Superdome probably helps that as well. Because it's at home. I normally go with the home team if I can't really pick and can't really decide who's going to win. And yeah, I think give me the Saints to win this one, but I'm not confident in that at all.
Yeah, in our podcast, we do the spreads, so Falcons plus 3.5 is what I picked. But they don't need to win the game to cover the spread.
Exactly, yeah.
In terms of winning the game, I don't really know. I'd probably lean Falcons, but that's my Derek Carr hatred coming through. But yeah, anyone can win that game. The Saints don't even need a loss. They could be the 7th seed if the Packers and Seahawks lose as well. So it's a huge game for the Saints. They kind of know win, and we've got 2 chances of getting in the playoffs. But yeah, I'll lean Falcons just because Saints struggled to stop the run before last week, and Arthur Smith, weird head coach, but knows how to design a good run game. So I think they'll be able to run the ball on the Saints. But yeah, this will be a weird game. There'll be a punt return touchdown. There'll be a safety. There'll be a change of quarterback mid-game. It should be fun to watch. But yeah, Yeah, it's not going to be the highest quality game. I think these two teams would make the playoffs worse to watch for us as a neutral on wildcard weekend for sure.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't think either of them are going to win the division because I think Tampa are going to win. I'm picking them to win against Carolina. But again, I don't think it'll be a plain sailing victory, especially if obviously Baker Mayfield doesn't play. That he has practice this week, so I think he will play. Especially how meaningful it is for the Bucks. But yeah, he took a really big hit to the ribs last week. So so it's going to be difficult for him to play at the same level. Yeah, obviously it's a division game after all, and the Panthers' offense has had its moments in the second half of the year, especially especially that game-winning drive against the Falcons, and they put 30 past the Packers the week after as well. Before that, they got shut out against Jacksonville. But yeah, no, I think for them, weird team end of the year. I think I'm going to pick them to cover, but I don't think they win this game just because. I don't know. I mean, I've been impressed with Bryce, the last couple of weeks more than I was at the start of the year. But yeah, I'm not putting all my faith in Carolina to win because I can't. And, so yeah, give me Tampa Bay to win and seal the division. How are you feeling about that?
Yeah, I think the Bucks will win the game. Even with Baker Mayfield, I think they'll run it okay. Check downs to Rashad White. Defense might score some points. Even though you're right, Bryce and stuff have played better, there's still 3 or 4 drives that just go tragically wrong every game. And the Bucks defense didn't look good last week, but they have had their moments. Anton Winfield Jr. looks really good. So wouldn't surprise me if they picked him off. So yeah, I'll go Bucks. I actually think they probably do cover the spread, win by a touchdown. And they play the Eagles, and my co-host is an Eagles fan on our pod. And when you talk to them, you're like, okay, who do you want to play the least? He's always like, yeah, Bucks for sure. They're by far the biggest scoring. 35 points on the Eagles defense. So, yeah, let's get the Bucks in the playoffs, make it more fun for all us neutrals for the NFC.
I think they can beat the Eagles as well. The way it's going.
They could do, yeah. His view is the Bucks are the only team that they could beat. As in, he'd be worried about the Packers. He'd be worried about the Rams. Yeah. But he thinks they can beat the Bucks just because, the Bucks are terrible at stopping the run. Obviously, what the Eagles are going to do. Run down your throat. So, yeah, they could definitely beat them. They'd be at home as well, and Todd Bowles made Jalen Hurts look stupid once before, so he might do it again. But yeah, I think the Bucks win this game quite comfortably, and then we'll see what Carolina do in the off season because between the owner, no head coach, and very small, tiny quarterback, they've got a lot of decisions to make. So we'll see.
And as you mentioned, that might not be the end of the road for the Saints as well. They can still get in as a wildcard team, so they'll have their eye on the late window in this Sunday slate as well because. The Packers and the Seahawks play on the late window. But before we get into the NFC Wildcard Race, the NFC East winner is still yet to be decided. Although we saw a huge swing in the Cowboys' direction last week after the Cardinals upset the Eagles in Philly, and after Dallas, with a bit of help from the referees, beat Detroit on Saturday night. All Dallas need to do now to have potentially 2 playoff games at home is beat Washington, and as we've spoken about before, they're a threat in that stadium, but they have to go on the road to do that, which is something they struggle with all year. Obviously, they're 3-5 on the road, which might leave the door open for the Eagles, who head to the Giants at the same time. It's not given they beat the Giants either because they struggled against them on Christmas Day, and again they've just lost to the Cardinals, so it's just a whole weird scenario. Before we pick our winners in these games, Liam, it's just fascinating how we've got here, isn't it? And how we've ended up here because it's been flip flop probably since about midway through the season.
Yeah, it has been interesting as well because I think Cowboys were quite well fancied at the start of the season as well to do really well. Started strong and then kind of dipped. The Eagles were playing well, and they lost one game at that point. And then the Eagles have now dipped. Cowboys have come into form, and then they've got the whole drama of can they beat a good team? In terms of the Dolphins loss and stuff like that. So, it's been one of the more wild divisions. But this division is always like this. No one wins it back-to-back hardly. It's a bit of a crazy one. At one point, I thought they were the 2 best teams quite clearly in the NFC. And then, they've just both been up and down for different reasons. Dallas defense has gotten worse. Philly offense has gotten worse. And defense has stayed pretty bad. So, it's been an interesting one. Both teams are going to have to improve, I think, to have a chance of beating the 49ers, but we'll see. This game is important for both teams. They both need to win, one for the division, well, both the division, but the Eagles just need to win just to get back on the right track for the playoffs because they can't lose another game and and go in negatively. And Dallas just want to win to say they've won on the road and got the 2 seed. So, yeah, fascinating weekend for both teams. That must-win games.
And exactly as you said, Liam, the Eagles have lost 4 in the last 5 games, which as a team that not only has 11 wins, but also a team that's going into the playoffs, that is quite some stat. That probably might never have happened. I don't know.
My team's done it as well. So.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, and then you've also got a team that has lost 7 straight in Washington going against the Cowboys. So it's probably difficult to pick either team with the form they've been in. That being said, the Eagles are way more talented than the Giants. So, yeah, they need this as well. So I'm going to pick them to win this game. And you'd like to think they'd be able to sort themselves out as well after another humbling loss last week against the Cardinals. But I don't think they'll be winning the division, because I think the Cowboys surely can't lose this game against a Washington team that could be without Jonathan Allen, Kendall Fuller, and Curtis Samuel. 3 pretty big names for their team. I think they should, and also again, a team that's lost 7 straight games. It'd be so Cowboys to lose that game and lose the division because of it, but I just can't see it happening. So yeah, I'm going to pick Dallas to win the division.
Yeah, same. I can't see it happening. I got Dallas going to the Super Bowl, had them win the division. So stick to my guns. My guy Dak is still playing well. So yeah, I think the Cowboys are going to win. I agree with you that I think Philly will win as well, which is important for the playoffs, because I don't think you want these 2 teams going in off a loss, and we don't want the NFC just to be obvious the whole way through already. We want some surprises. So I think both teams win. I think Dallas wins quite comfortably, probably Ron Rivera's last ever game as a NFL head coach.
It's got to be, surely. Has to be.
Yeah, it will be. I think he'll be the one you find out about after the game. Could be a retirement, kind of make his own decision. He is a lot older. Just go out his own way. And from the Philly side, I think they win, and they could win comfortably, but it would not shock me if it was still a tight game in the 4th quarter. I don't think the offense will fix itself in this game against Wink. I think the run game will be good, but the pass game will still be up and down as it's been all year. But I don't think the Giants have got enough on offense to beat them. So yeah, I think both teams win, and then we have Dallas 2 seed, Philly 5 seed.
The key for the Eagles is starting off very, very well, because in the second half they just can't play football. It's so weird. Like all their losses, they've led at half time and then ended up losing all of them, all those games, which is just weird. Just such a weird thing. They just they can be up 2 scores, 3 scores, and end up losing games. They're just in-game adjustments just haven't been at it this year, and obviously the 2 new coordinators, we wondered before the year whether that would be a big issue. Well, it has been a big issue, way more than I think any of us thought it would be as well, because they've kept a lot of the players still, or at least replaced players that are at the same level. So they were the story of coming into the season, and they really are a story going into the playoffs as well, but it's for the complete wrong reasons. So that's it. The Dallas Cowboys will win the NFC East, and then we'll go on to the NFC Wildcard places, where both the Seahawks and the Packers are fighting out for the final NFC wildcard spot, with the Rams and the NFC East loser. So in this case, it would be Philadelphia, already in the wildcard places, secure and everything. The Packers are currently in that 7 seed after their win against the fellow playoff chasing Vikings last week, who aren't out of it, but they need a miracle to happen for them to get into the playoffs. But they need to win to secure their spot. Otherwise, Seattle or possibly New Orleans, as we said, can sneak in. But they do have a very tough opponent in the Bears, who obviously the Packers demolished in week 1. We were there. We both watched this game together. It was just funny watching Ollie Darcy react, because he didn't know what was going on. But the Bears... Yeah, the Bears are a completely different team from that. They've won 4 of their last 5 games, and they've beaten 2 teams that are still alive in the playoff mix as well. And they went toe-to-toe with 11-5 Cleveland Browns, and probably should have beaten them as well. They probably should have beaten the Lions the first game as well. So they've been very, very good recently, which is weird to say. That being said, the Bears have won just 1 of their last 15 games against the Packers. But obviously that's all those games were with Aaron Rodgers. But what a potential end to the season for Bears fans, because not only do they have the number 1 overall pick, they've won 4 of the last 5 games, and they can now ruin the Packers' season pretty much single-handedly. What a time to be a Bears fan, surely.
Yeah, it feels a bit like last year with the Lions. Ironically, it also involved the Seahawks. Seahawks won in the day. For some reason, they put the Lions on at night, which meant the Lions couldn't make the playoffs, but if they win, Packers' season was ruined. Lions go in, go for every fourth down, go for two, win, and cost the Packers the playoffs. Now the Bears get a chance to do the same. And arguably, there's a bigger rivalry this way because the Bears hate the Packers even more than the Lions do, just because of how many times Aaron Rodgers has beaten them and that famous scene where he says that he owns Chicago and stuff. So I know he's not there anymore, but they won't forget that was the team that it happened for. So yeah, for me, you're a Dolphins fan, so you'd be biased. But for me, this is the best game for me, the most fun game that I'm looking forward to because of the two offenses, how much they're going to go for it, my love for Justin Fields. I think we'll go to picks in a minute, but I think this game will be high scoring and it'll be fun. And you're right, great time to be a Bears fan. First overall pick, top 15 pick, chance to ruin the season. Players seem like they love Fields. Players seem like they love Eberflus as well. And then the trade, and then the trade they did with Washington as well has definitely worked out short term. Obviously, long term we'll see, but short term defense has been top 5 unit in the NFL since they made the trade for Sweat. So, great position to be in. Obviously, Packers with a young QB though, it's a good position for them to be in. Win, get in the playoffs. They'll either be, I think, the 6 or the 7 seed, depending on what happens with Lions, Rams. So yeah, it's a good position for both franchises. It should be a fun, high scoring game, I hope.
Yeah, and it's weird with the Bears in general as well because it wasn't just Matt Eberflus who was getting a lot of criticism. It was Luke Getsy, obviously the offensive coordinator, and since halfway through the season, their offense has just transformed. They've especially the on-script stuff. They've been brilliant right at the start of games. They're scoring pretty much every single time they get the ball first. Or at least on their first drive. And the other thing as well with the Bears is like, we saw this on them at the end of last year, and they just didn't do it at the start of this year, and they're back to what they were doing at the end. It's like if they would have kept what they've been doing the whole time on offense the whole season, they could be in the playoffs by now. It's just it's just a whole weird thing with them, isn't it?
Yeah, and they started an awful quarterback whilst Justin Fields was out as well. Yeah. So if he doesn't get injured, if he doesn't get injured, we're talking about a 3 or 4-5 team race for the NFC here, and Bears would probably be winning this game and hoping for a Seahawks loss, and they'd be in the playoffs themselves. So, it is a shame, and we'll see what happens next season. This is going to be one of the biggest summers for them. Obviously, 2 first-round
picks.
They
could be new coach as well. That's the thing, really. We just don't know what they're going to look like. New quarterback. Yeah, it's just such a a weird season for the off season it's going to be for the Bears. Yeah,
if they win this game, I think. I don't think there's no way they change the head coach. Quarterback's a different decision, but I personally think regardless, Eberflus is staying. It seems like the team absolutely loves him. The offense loves Fields, but a GM could make a different decision. I'm biased as being a Fields guy, so
we all are. I think most of us are. So I'd keep him as well.
I don't know if I would keep him as in if I put my analytical hat on, they probably should take a quarterback number 1, but because I love Fields, I just want to see him stay and them add another weapon in the first round, them add another 3 offensive linemen in free agency, and then them make the NFC playoffs, be the new Lions. That's the plan, but we'll see. Should be a fun game, and there's loads of good players on offense in this game. It'll be an exciting, high-scoring game. I think the Bears are going to win, so that's my my shout. Justin Fields is going to throw for 250 and rush for 100 and have the game of his life. I just think they win the game. I don't think the Packers defense can stop them.
Yes, I have a very similar view actually. But before we get into my prediction, we'll go through the Seattle game first. And after last week's loss at home to the Steelers, they fell out of the wild card places. And now probably unlikely. I think they had a 70% chance at the start of the day. They've about a 20% chance now of making the playoffs. So it's a crucial loss that for Seattle. But should Chicago do them a favour, as you're predicting, Liam, they can get in with a win in Arizona. Then again, this isn't exactly going to be straightforward for the Seahawks because the Cardinals have been difficult to beat at home this year. They've beaten the Cowboys in that building. They've played a lot of teams close in that building, and obviously they've won a few games in there as well, 3 games in there as well. And they've just beaten the Eagles in Philadelphia as well. Again with the Jags at 6-3, the Seahawks looked an almost dead cert as a wildcard team, but unfortunately, I'm actually not so sure they even end with a winning record right now. They're 8-8 at the minute, let alone reach the playoffs. I'm going to go for an Arizona win. The Seahawks defense has been weird. They've had a ton of injuries, and I'm sorry to say it, they don't look that well coached. compared to the Cardinals anyway. It's just weird. They've just crumbled. And obviously the injuries have been a big factor, but they've got so many personnel, weird personal stuff on that defense, if it's Jamal Adams or what's his name, the DB as well. And it just seems so odd. And I didn't think I'd see this from a sort of Pete Carroll coach team post Russell Wilson anyway. So yeah, it's odd. So I'm going to pick the Seahawks to win this. The Cardinals to win this game, which then leaves the Packers, with a win, and they're in, lose, and the Saints get the final wildcard spot.
No one wants to watch. No one wants to watch that.
No, but I've gone out there with my predictions so far, and I'm fancying continuing that streak on. So I'm a big Justin Fields fan. I think he establishes himself as the Bears franchise QB, as you said, Liam, in this game. I think he's going to eliminate the Packers out of the playoffs and put the Saints into the 7 seed.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I spoiled my prediction. I think the Bears are going to win. I do think it'll be a close game, really high scoring, but Bears will win. I think the Seahawks do the business and beat the Cardinals probably by a field goal. Knowing the Seahawks,
yeah, it's going to be close. That's the thing.
It'd be a very close game. Probably also high scoring, potentially, with how bad the Seahawks defense has looked. Long term,
I don't trust their defense whatsoever anymore.
No, long term they've got a lot of work to do. They're in a weird position because they're too good every year to truly kind of rebuild, and they got Witherspoon out of nowhere, and that's a positive. But I just don't think the Cardinals are going to do it again. Their offensive coordinator also has had an incredible season on script. They score a lot. They run the ball incredibly well.
You look at the skill position players they have as well, and you've got like Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch starting out here every week. You're just like, and Trey McBride, is like as one of Carter's most favourite weapons. I'm looking forward to seeing them with with good players.
Which they could get. They got 2 first-round picks, well, haven't they? So, but yeah, I think the Seahawks win. I do think it's very, very close. And then in my scenario, Seahawks would get in, and thankfully Saints would miss out. We'd have to see Derek Carr in the playoffs. Seahawks offense actually still playing pretty well. The problem is their tackles. They just have so many injuries on the offensive line that seems
Abraham
to
Lucas is hurt again, so that's not great for them. Jason Peters is out as well. Even as a backup guy, that's not very good because he's going to play if Jason Peters can't go, and it's just like
he's their third tackle.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. If you're missing 2 year tackles, he's your 4th string tackle starting opposite Charles Cross. Then
there'll be a lot of pressure, but Gino will still throw the ball down the field on the Cardinals. But I think it'll be a close game. But fancy Seahawks to win and Bears to win in the other game. And I think the Bears game will be the most exciting game for most people because a lot of people aren't going to stay up, obviously, to watch that 1 a.m. game. But I'm looking forward to that one.
I think it'll be the game that I'll enjoy watching most. Just put it that way. I don't know if I think the Dolphins Bills game is the best game, but I don't know if I'll enjoy it as much. Obviously, we'll get onto that game now. Before we pick the winners in the rest of the games that don't have so much riding on them, this is it, the big game. The game that finishes the regular season on Sunday Night Football is an all AFC East affair with plenty riding on it too. Because after last week's loss to Baltimore, the Dolphins, who've led the division pretty much from start to finish, failed to wrap up their first home playoff game since 2008. Meaning that the Buffalo Bills, who have won 5 of their last 6 games, travel to Miami, knowing that a victory will win them their 4th straight division title out of absolutely nowhere. The Dolphins had odds, percentage chance of winning the division, almost above 90% at one point, but they couldn't get the job done against the Titans, and that really set this scenario up. With them beating the Cowboys but failing to beat the Ravens. But it's weird for Buffalo though because a loss could see them miss the playoffs entirely, and that'll be the first time since 2018 as well. Josh Allen's rookie year. As for Miami, well, they're in. They got in after beating the Cowboys, but they have to win the division. Otherwise, they're a wildcard team that is probably heading to Arrowhead because the Browns would win out on the tiebreaker there, and they are locked into the 5 seed. So there's so much riding in this game. Both teams are just heading in completely different directions, aren't they, Liam? It's quite something.
A little bit, but the Bills haven't been great either. They were not great.
They've just been winning games. They've been winning games.
Yeah, that's the difference. Yeah, they were not great against the Patriots. I think Josh Allen only threw it 8 times against the Cowboys. They shouldn't have beat the Chiefs. Dolphins obviously should have beaten the Titans, barring like a collapse. Had probably one of the worst performances of the entire season last week. So yeah, these two teams are all over the place. It's like the highs are probably the highest in the league, or a bit more higher on Buffalo, but the lows have just been really low for both teams. And it's weird as well because both teams' defenses middle of the season pretty awful, and they've just trended up and up and up. And then Dolphins get more injuries, so now what are they going to look like on defense? Bills offense kind of fixed itself, got worse, fixed itself, got worse. Dolphins offense have been quite consistent, but the big plays have obviously slowed down a lot compared to the first 6 weeks. So yeah, both these teams are all over the place, and they'll still be fancying themselves as Super Bowl winners, Super Bowl contenders. But yeah, this is a pretty important game for both teams in terms of the home field advantage. Miami, don't fancy them to win many road games, because you have to think about it. One playoff win is great, but the idea is to get to the Super Bowl. If you lose it, you probably have to play 3 road games to get there.
Or in cold environments as well. The Dolphins, their heat, the heat in Miami is an advantage. That that's why they're so good at home and not very good away. So if they have to go to Arrowhead, go to Baltimore, go to Buffalo, in a game, 1 of 3 games, and that's not great at all, is it?
Yeah, that's the order it would have to be in. And even if Buffalo lose, it would be the Browns probably in that scenario. It's unlikely it would be the Jags how it would work out. So yeah, and similar for Buffalo as well. They haven't got the greatest away record in the playoffs themselves. They have been much better this year at home defensively than they have on the road. They've given up way more points on the road than they have at home. So yeah, this is a huge game. I'm only going to stay up to watch it if the Steelers and Jags win, because then I can watch.
That's it.
I can watch and be like, right, Buffalo lose, they're out, which is the dream for me, because I think I would rather play the Ravens than the Bills as a Chiefs fan. So Josh Allen's just too good.
Really?
On his day, yeah. He's too good. It's the same as the Chiefs. I would never want to play Mahomes in the playoffs. Doesn't matter how much better your team is. If he turns it on, you're not going to win. And if Josh Allen turns it on, there's only one person I think that can beat him in the entire league. So, yeah, I'd rather see them out. But yeah, what are you feeling as a Dolphins fan? Because you're
honestly, man, I'm not confident at all. It's because of the injuries. It's like, as we've said, Miami are just so injured, and the Bills are now favourites in this game, which is quite remarkable, with it being in Miami. And it's a night game, so it's not as much of a factor. But if it was in the daytime, the Bills would be, the Bills have struggled in Miami recently because they're in the sun. The away team are in the sun, so it's why it's such an advantage. But it's at night, so it's less of a factor in this one. But Sunday was just terrible for the Dolphins. They were not only completely dismantled, but they lost 2 more key starters to injury as well. And these guys are probably going to be out for, obviously, Bradley Chubb tore his ACL and he's done for the year. And Xavier Howard has pretty much already been ruled out for this one. He might not play in the playoffs as well. His foot injury is quite, apparently it's quite going to be out for a little bit as well. So they've now lost their 2 starting edge rushers, and will be without another top defensive player, one of the corners that the defense is built around. And they now face Josh Allen, who they struggled to deal with in week 4 with an injured defense where he had an absolute day. And that's on top of Jalen Waddle, probably not playing in this one. Raheem Mostert, they both missed last week. They've not practiced at all this week as well. So that doesn't fill me with confidence at all either.
Offensive line's got injuries as well.
Yeah. And as we mentioned, Buffalo, they've been winning games. They've hit form at the right time, and they're relatively healthy. Their injury report is about a third of the size of the Dolphins. I was looking at it today. It's quite remarkable the size of these 2 teams' injury reports. Buffalo are really healthy. Miami are the complete opposite. And that's the thing. They're still a very talented football team. I think it's just all happened for them at the wrong time. I don't think they're a team that can win the Super Bowl anymore. But can I win this game? Absolutely. Can I win a playoff game? Yes. But perhaps, as you said, Liam, only in Miami. And it's what this game is. This is a playoff game in Miami, before they get into the playoffs. Because if they lose this one, then their season's probably a failure because with the way it's worked out. But it's just it's just the way they've. It's unfortunate. I don't know. It's just. There's 4 years the Dolphins have had a winning record in a row, which is tied for the longest streak. Or it's just 4 years. They failed to make the playoffs the first 2 of those years with Brian Flores, even with a winning record. Then last year they went to the playoffs with Skylar Thompson and almost beat the Bills.
Almost won.
Yeah, and then this year they're playing the Bills again. They could play Buffalo 2 weeks in a row if they win this game as well. And then so it's just. As a Dolphins fan, I'm not very confident at all. But I think that's the thing, really, isn't it? Before we just pick the winners, Liam. I think it might be too many injuries for them, isn't it?
It's a lot of injuries.
Well, Tyreek Hill's in a walking boot as well. He's not 100%. So
yeah, we've both been quite not anti-Dolphins. You're a Dolphins fan, but we've sounded quite pro-Bills. So I will say that if Tyreek Hill wants to beat the Dolphins and protection holds up and Tua doesn't throw interceptions, he himself can get enough yards and points to keep the game close as a receiver. That's how good he is and how bad I think the Bills secondary is, especially the cornerback position. So there is a chance, but yeah, you're right. They are very injured. I don't see a way, apart from a few drives of like very, very good Vic Fangio defense. That's just in terms of like clever blitzes, clever drop 8. I don't see them a way of slowing Josh Allen down at all with how many injuries you've got. You have to go out and score loads of points. So I think Mike McDaniel has to be ready to go for it as much as all the people on Twitter are going to go nuts when it doesn't work a couple of times. He's going to have to go for it on every 4th down. He's going to have to go for it in the red zone if it's 4th and 3, 4th and 4. He's going to have to throw to Tyreek 15 times, and they just need to win this game. Because I think if you win this game, even though, yeah, you've got a game in 7 days, it gives you such a better chance of winning. I just think you have to just kind of exploit Tyreek as much as you can in this game and see if Vic can save a little bit on defense. I just wanted to spy Josh Allen. I went back and watched that game, and there's too many times where he's had a free rush outside, and I just think, look, whoever your fastest linebacker is, just spy him. But David Long, if he's, I don't know if he's even healthy, but just spy him the whole game. There should be no snap where he hasn't got a spy. If he stiff arms the spy and runs for 20 yards, great, that's Josh Allen. But he shouldn't have a time where he just roll out and he's just got free reign of 30 yards down the field. Because I think that's what could kill you. Because him and Diggs haven't been connecting for
he's been like receiver like 50 in fantasy this last this second half of the year when he was receiver 2 or 3 at the start of the year. So that's he's had quite a drop off since then.
Do you think you said earlier you don't think the Dolphins can win the Super Bowl anymore? Do you think the Bills can win the Super Bowl or not?
I think they can get to it, but I think the Niners beat them. I think the Cowboys beat them in the Super Bowl as well. Like
you don't think the Dolphins can even get to the Super Bowl now. That's the difference.
No, well, I think part of my prediction with that is because I don't think we're going to win this game because
you're on the road.
It's the Josh Allen effect because you mentioned it just a minute ago. The game in week 4. Miami's offense, the healthy unit, it wasn't a problem in the Dolphins. They were toe to toe with the Bills until about half time, and then Josh Allen just took over. It was the spanking was because of their defense. Vic Fangio's actually never really been able to stop Josh Allen at all. He's 3-0 against him with an average of 323 total yards and 3.6 touchdowns per game. He had 5 in the week 4 drubbing as well. And it's not just Josh Allen, it's quarterbacks who have a bit of mobility to him. That's where the Dolphins have struggled on defense this year. We talk about Lamar Jackson, Will Levis as well. They basically just dropped back and allowed Will Levis to just hit DeAndre Hopkins across the middle in that 2-minute drive, and that's what they did. That's what they did against the Bills. That's what they did against the Ravens as well. They're just it's something. Fangio needs to change something. And I read an NFL Network article, and I think someone said that Fangio's going to have a Hall of Fame game plan to beat the Bills this week, which I kind of agree with that. So I'm going to go for the Bills to win, and I'm picking the Bills to join Miami at 11 wins and then win the division on a tiebreaker after sweeping them. I'm just not confident, and again, it might just be me, hoping that set myself up for failure because obviously it's the biggest Dolphins game in about 20 years, but certainly in my lifetime anyway. And again, I am 20, so that's about right. I think the way the injury is going to be a killer for Miami, especially Xavier Howard, and the fact they got their starting pass rushers are going to be Andrew Van Ginkel and Melvin Ingram. That's quite some drop from Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips, and both those guys have been great. For the Dolphins the last couple of years. Ingram had about 9 sacks last year, and they've just re-signed him now. Van Ginkel's been awesome, and he's gonna get a contract somewhere else. I don't think Miami are going to renew him this year. He's gonna get a big contract, but I think unless they can get to Allen, I don't think they win this game.
Yeah, we haven't mentioned that Josh Allen himself is actually injured as well, neck and fingers. And as much as I don't love him because of the rivalry, but as much as I think he's incredible, they will, as an offense this year, just have absolutely awful games out of nowhere as well. So that could easily happen.
But
But
they've relied on James Cook as well, to be fair, and the Dolphins are very good against the run, but they are missing their two ends. So whether they would remain to be the same against the run is another question.
Yeah, your defensive tackles are very good, but it depends how Buffalo want to run the ball, outside zone, inside zone. They kind of mix it up a little bit, so we'll see what it looks like. You'll know after the first couple of drives if Buffalo can run the ball. If they can't, they're just throwing it 50 times. That's what they're doing. Yeah, I'm going to pick the Bills as well. Pick them with the spread. I do think it'll be close, though, because I think the Dolphins could easily, if they get the ball first, could race out into a 10-0 lead just with how the Bills offense goes up and down. And then like you said, I think Josh Allen does enough to come back into it. But I want the Dolphins to win so I can play Gardner Minshew or Mason Rudolph in the playoffs as a Chiefs fan. But it feels like we're getting Tyreek back at Arrowhead in Wildcard weekend, which I will not come on the show if the Chiefs lose. So there we go.
We've gone through this whole thing without mentioning Tua as well, which is normally
shoulder injury as well.
But that's
what's the reports been like this week?
He's fine. Yeah, he's been fully in practice. He's fine. But he just said it was sore. But Tua has been very good in the months of September to November. December and January, he's been an average quarterback, and I think that's if the Dolphins can win this one, if Tua can have a performance, and I think that'll do very good for his narrative as well, because it's they've always come unstuck at this point. The last 4 years, one of them because of his injury, but I think it's the same narrative again and again and again. I think it'd be nice to see something change, but I don't think it will change, because I think behind that offensive line, that I think this is their 12th different offensive line combination this season. And although they're getting Robert Hunt back this week, that's still you're still starting the likes of Lester Cotton or Robert Jones at left guard. So and you're still starting Liam Eichenberg at centre. So
that is a real name, by the way, as well, Lester Cotton. But it's an important off season for the Dolphins, because your cap sheet next year is awful, and Tyreek Hill's for a wide receiver is like top level quarterback sort of cap level. So it's a big.
They're going to have to pay Tua as well. Whether it's that's the thing, because they've done his tag for next year, and they've got 2 years to pay him. But I think the reports in Miami is they think they want to get the deal done now. Before either before he has a very good season or before he gets injured. Something. So it's they want to. It looks like he's going to get an extension this year, but
Well,
how
as a
this
fan, I'm
this
very
game
happy about that.
again? I think this I'm higher on Tua than a lot of them, but I think this game is it will determine how much he gets paid. If he can win this game, I think he'll be up there with Herbert and Burrow. If he doesn't, then I think the Dolphins might get him for a bit cheaper. So yeah,
we'll see. If you pay him, you pay Herbert and Burrow, I'll be very happy as an AFC rival. So we'll see. We'll see. But good luck. I hope you win, but we'll find out Sunday night. I assume you're going to stay up, watch this, right?
Yeah. I'll be up watching this one. Yeah, and
nice.
I'll have a little bit of rest, and we'll do the podcast on Monday night. We'll react to all the firings as they happen as well. But there are other games. Before we finish the podcast, we'll just whittle through these games and pick who we think are going to win in the less meaningful ones. And we'll start with the Browns heading into Cincinnati. They will rest Joe Flacco this week and other starters as well heading into the playoffs. They've locked up the number 5 seed. They can't move. So it's Jeff Driscoll who will get the start for the Browns. He just signed this week, and he's a former Bengal, of course. But again, I don't think they'll be able to win with there's quite a few backups that they're not playing, I think. So quite a few starters not playing, so I don't think that the backups will be able to win against a pretty full-strength Bengals team. So give me the Bengals to win this one. Yeah,
I think the Bengals are going to win, despite another weird week of Jamar Chase saying stupid stuff.
Yeah.
I think they're going to. I think they're going to win the game. Cleveland they're 5 seed. They're resting everyone. So give me the Bengals.
Okay, on to probably the most meaningful game of this bunch, because the Lions still actually have a chance at the 2 seed. They're going full strength because they're needing a win, and obviously a Dallas and a Philly loss to seal the 2 seed. It's unlikely, but there's a chance it happens, so they're going full strength. The Vikings are going back to Nick Mullins at the starting QB. It's their 6th QB change of the season, and they've got an incredibly slim chance at the playoff berth at 3%. But if they win and the Packers and Seahawks and one of the Saints or Bucks lose, then they get in. They get in as a 7 seed. So basically, they need the Falcons to win the NFC South. That's if the Falcons win the NFC South and the Vikings are potentially in. I don't see that happening, no. So I'm going to pick the Lions, especially as their full strength, and they may get the 2 seed with the way Dallas and Philly have been this season.
Yeah, I'll pick the Lions. I think it could get to the third quarter and they start resting people. If Dallas are winning by 30 points, it's just what's the point of risking some of the players? I think Sam Laporta and Gibbs have both got little knocks as well. So
they play before the Cowboys and Eagles. They play at 6 p.m. So
okay, cool. Yeah, they'll play them the whole game then. Very Dan Campbell kneecaps, just run your players into the ground. But yeah, I think they'll win the game quite comfortably. Minnesota looked terrible last week, and cost me a fantasy football championship. So thanks for that one. Bye.
Okay, we'll get on to the it could be Bill Belichick's last game as a head coach, and it's actually quite fitting that it's against the team he initially was supposed to join in the Jets. The Jets will be without Zach Wilson in this one. He's still in concussion protocol, so it'll be Trevor Siemian who starts again. And they haven't actually beaten the Patriots since 2015, and the last non-overtime win against the Patriots for the Jets was in 2011. So it's been a while. Although a win would be a brilliant storyline for them to, might be Belichick's last game, I don't see it happening, especially if it is Bill Belichick's last game. So give me the Patriots to win this one.
Yeah, I'm the same. I don't think it is going to be his last game, personally. But
do you not?
No, but if it is, I'm even more convinced they win this game because there's no chance in hell Bill Belichick's losing his last game to the Jets. So yeah, even if he has to play quarterback himself, I think they'll win the game. So yeah, give me the Jets. I think it'll be give me the Patriots. I think it'll be a terrible game, but I think Patriots will win somehow.
Yeah, with those 2 teams this year, it's going to be terrible. 2 teams that have been really entertaining this year, the Rams and the Niners, they are pretty much resting everyone. They're locked into the 6-1 seed, so their match of this week will feature a load of backups. The Rams are starting Carson Wentz. The Niners are starting Sam Darnold. And obviously, so many players won't play. Like Christian McCaffrey, for example, he got an injury last week, so they're resting him. It's Shanahan versus McVay, so it'll be fun with backups still in. But I'm going to go with Shanahan. I think the Niners are probably more loaded from top to bottom, so they'll probably have better players in. So give me the Niners to win this one.
So I need the Rams to win for my season-long Goff versus McVay in the playoffs because if the Packers win and Rams lose, Rams will be the 7th seed, so they wouldn't play the Lions. And if I was a Cowboys fan, I would not want Stafford and that offense to come to Dallas. So yeah. I don't have a clue who's really going to win. I'm going to say the Rams because I think Puka is going to play. Kyron Williams is going to play. The offensive line is going to play. And I think Wentz might be okay-ish. And I know, obviously, McVay will just love to beat Shanahan with backups because that's what they care about now is they're playing their backups. Which one of us can scheme up the best offense? They love each other and they hate each other in terms of rivalry. So, yeah, I'll go for the Rams, but that's more just because I want them to win the game. I think this could just be a stupid, crazy shootout, or it could be a 13-10 game. I have no idea how this one's going to look.
Awesome. We then go over we stick on the West Coast, go to Vegas, where Jarrett Stidham returns to the Vegas as the Broncos and the Raiders face off. Obviously, both backup QBs, Stidham at the Broncos and Aiden O'Connell for the Raiders. Denver are looking to end a 7-game losing run against the Raiders, dating back to when they were in Oakland, so it's been a while since they last beat them. And again, in games like this, I'm going to go with the home team, so I think that streak's going to continue. So I'm going to go for the Raiders and Antonio Pierce to finish his interim run as 5-4. That actually could be enough to steal him the full-time job. I think probably should give it to him the way they've played on the stretch. But yeah, no, I think give me the Raiders to win this one.
Yeah, same. Give me the Raiders home team. Team's playing hard. Devontae Adams going for some large incentives if he gets another big day this week. So yeah, I think they'll win. Low scoring game probably. Stidham's all right, but I just think that the Raiders will win a close one. They love their coach, don't they? So I think they'll win.
And then we'll finish up with your Chiefs, Liam. They head to the Chargers. Obviously, no Patrick Mahomes in this one. Blaine Gabbert will get the start. A few others are unlikely to play as well, like Rashee Rice. But I'm still picking them to win against the Chargers. The amount of key injuries that the Chiefs have. Sorry, the Chargers have a backup Chiefs team is probably way better than what the Chargers are putting out this at the minute. So you give me the Chiefs to win, and a loss for the Chargers means they could pick as high as number 2 in the draft. So a loss for them would be huge potentially.
Don't say Caleb Williams to the Chargers. Don't start those rumours. Yeah, are the Chiefs going to win? I'm not sure. The Chiefs' backups on defense are definitely the best unit in this. Will probably be the better unit in this game. How good some of those young guys are playing. So, yeah, I'll go Chiefs, but I think it could be quite a. I think it could be quite high scoring. The total is really low, but Blaine Gabbett's just going to throw it. That's all he does. Go in, just throw it 40 yards down the field, see if you get picked, or see if you get a completion. So yeah, I'll go Chiefs to win a close game probably.
Awesome. Well, that's it. That's week 18 done. That is all 18 weeks of regular season previewed. It's been a pleasure to do it on the podcast. So yeah, I mean, Liam, you've been on quite a few of these preview podcasts. So thank you for coming on, mate. Yeah, after Sunday we'll be in playoff time, which is the best time of the year. So I can't wait for it. So yeah, thanks for coming on, Liam. It's been great.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me. Enjoy week 18, everyone. And then, wildcard weekend comes, which I think is probably most people's favourite, if not second favourite week of the year. So, should be an exciting finish. But yeah, thanks for having me on, and good work all season with your previews. You've been very good.
Awesome. Thank you very much, mate. And I will see you for our final regular season recap of the season, our week 18 recap. I've been Sam Moores. It's been a Full 10 Yards NFL podcast, and I will see you then.